What's up guys, I'm Heath Pierce, and first off, I'd like to send a huge congrats to Cameroon for their shock AFCON win over the weekend. Now let me put this into perspective. This team was called the worst Cameroonian side in living memory, but after coming through a pretty weak group, they made the knockout rounds their own and capped it off with a come-from-behind 2-1 win over Egypt for their 5th title and first in the last 15 years. Congrats Cameroon, but now it's time for the Kick Power Rankings. Let me remind you, the Kick Power Rankings are not just a list of the best teams in the world, this is a list of the teams no one would want to be coming up against right now. Hit us up in the comments with the list of your top teams in the world, and we'll see you down there to defend our own picks. So let's kick it off at number 10. It's Manchester City. Remember a few weeks ago when Man City got crushed by Everton and followed that up with a draw against Tottenham? It looked like it was all unraveling for Pep Guardiola's high-paid superstars. Yeah, well that was before a certain Gabriel Jesus arrived from Palmeiras, and he is the only reason City are anywhere near our list. The 19-year-old is an absolute game changer. He gave us a glimpse of what he's capable of in his first 2 cameos, but his last 2 matches, he has 3 goals and an assist. On Sunday, he opened up the scoring against Swansea, and after Sigurdsson equalized because of typical terrible defending from City, up stepped Gabriel Jesus in stoppage time to bail Pep out and knock in the winner. This kid has pace, he has skill, and he looks like he absolutely loves playing the game. That smile, you've gotta love that smile. The big question though, is he better than Agüero? He apparently has enough in his locker to keep the world-class striker out of the side right now, so much so that even Agüero has stated that he's giving his all until May, and then he'll see what the club's plans are for him. I mean, after 2 games on the bench, really? I'd never expect Agüero to make a comment like that unless he is truly threatened by the quality of this kid. And that must be the case, which tells us everything about how good this Gabriel Jesus kid is gonna be. And at number 9, it's Tottenham. Spurs are doing just enough to keep some pressure on Chelsea at the top of the table. Considering Chelsea are arguably the best team in Europe this year, that means Spurs being a mere 9 points behind is good enough to get them on this list. Midweek, they slipped up in a draw versus Sunderland, who themselves are looking ready to actually battle to stay up in the Premier League after all. But Tottenham followed that up by doing just enough to get a 1-0 win over Middlesbrough through a Harry Kane penalty. Up next for Tottenham is Liverpool, who have been in a serious slump. But what we do know about Klopp's men is that they have not lost a single game against one of the top half teams in the table this season. It feels like a make or break match for both sides. Liverpool for a top 4 bid, and for Tottenham's small dream of Premier League glory. A lot like the same position they were in last year this time. Can't wait for that one next weekend. On to number 8, it's Porto. So much of the talk in Portugal has been about Benfica so far this season, but out of nowhere, Porto are now just 1 point behind them in the table. The Portuguese Giants took down Sporting Clube de Portugal 2-1 in this weekend's high-profile matchup. 2 first-half goals from Suarez was enough, and then they turned it over to Porto's league-best defense just to finish the job. They did leak 1 goal through a cracking Alan Ruiz volley from distance in the second half, but in the end, they got the job done. The key was keeping league-leading goal scorer Bas Dost quiet, which they did relatively effectively, and that is good enough for their 4th straight win, making it 17 unbeaten, and they have just 1 loss on the season. Hey Juve, are you starting to get a bit nervous about that Champions League tie coming up? On to number 7, it's Celtic. Perhaps Celtic were deserving of being on this list earlier than just last week, but Celtic are now up to 7 after beating 2nd place Aberdeen midweek, followed by a 5-2 thumping of St. Johnstone this weekend. There are 2 things of added value about Celtic right now. First, they have 19 straight wins in the league and are 23-0-1 on the season, which is insane. I don't care if you brought ringers to a Sunday league, you still aren't going to go that long without a loss. The second thing worth noting was that 20-year-old Moussa Dembele subbed into the match in the 58th minute and wrapped up a hat-trick by the 85th minute, bringing his goal tally to 23 on the year. You can see exactly why Chelsea are looking to fork out $40 million for his services. At number 6, we have Napoli. Honestly, every week they keep scoring goals, and I'm a bit shocked. They lost Higuain, they lost his replacement Milik to a serious injury, and somehow they are still the high scorers in the league with 55 goals, and they're the only side putting any pressure on Juve at the top of the table. This weekend, Napoli smashed Bologna 7-1 through hat-tricks from both Dries Mertens and Marek Hamšík. That makes it 12 unbeaten in the league. Keep it up, Napoli, so there's at least the feeling of some pressure on Juve. On to number 5, it's Bayern Munich. Now, normally we dock Bayern some serious spots on this list for a 1-1 draw against an average at best Schalke, but this week ended up making no difference as their only title challenger RB Leipzig dropped all 3 points for only the 3rd time this season, this time against Dortmund. Bayern's performance was pretty forgettable, and the match did leave fans wanting more after both goals in the match were scored in the opening quarter of an hour. First, Lewandowski struck in the 9th minute for his 15th league goal of the season, and Schalke went level just 4 minutes later off a goal from Brazilian defender Naldo. Bayern now have a 4-point gap in the table, and I'm not anticipating any kind of slip up anytime soon. And at number 4, it's the Serie A table toppers, Juventus. Juve picked up a hard-fought home win over Inter Milan on Sunday thanks to a stroke of halftime hit one-timer from 25 yards out by Juan Cuadrado. For all the anticipation leading up to this match, the scoreline disappointed, but the match itself was quite intense. Dybala and Pjanic each hit the bar on separate occasions, and Inter Milan had multiple chances missed by Icardi and João Mario. Juve now sit comfortably with a 6-point cushion and a game in hand at the top of the table, with Napoli in second and Inter Milan now falling to 6th in the league, which is quite disappointing considering they won their last 7 in the league, plus they crashed out of Coppa Italia at the hands of Lazio last week. Well, let's all just hope they finish in the top 4 so Simeone can take over in the summer and build them into a monster again. On to number 3, it's Barcelona. Barca picked apart a disorganized Athletic Bilbao side 3-0 over the weekend, with goals coming from Alcacer, Vidal, and Messi on a free kick. Messi's free kick, by the way, was another club record for him, as it was his 27th free kick goal, which probably doesn't mean much to him as he seems to have every other record in the world these days, but for us common folks, it's brilliant. But back to the team. After Barcelona's win, they've jumped Sevilla in the standings and are back in second place, 1 point behind Real, who have 2 games in hand. And if you are wondering where Real are on this power ranking, well, their game was postponed due to weather, so for this week, we slipped in their good friends Barcelona, who've only lost once in their last 20 matches. And at number 2, it's Monaco. We've been telling you over and over and over again, don't sleep on Monaco, and if you weren't convinced by the insane amount of goals they've scored this season, then these last 2 weeks should kill the argument once and for all. A draw on the road against a stacked PSG and a 3-0 win at home against co-league leaders Nice is nothing short of clutch for this young squad at this point in the season. And in their match against Nice, they didn't dominate possession like they have much of the season, but they were lethal and quite efficient in front of goal. Jermaine opened the scoring just after the half, and Falcao finished with 2 more to wrap up the game and give Monaco a 3-point lead at the top of the table and a 5-game unbeaten streak. With their 2 hardest games behind them for the second half of the season, their title destiny is truly in their hands from now until May. And at number 1, and it's truly indisputable, it's Chelsea Football Club. Chelsea have continued their quest towards the Premier League title in a 3-1 dismantling of Arsenal over the weekend, with goals from Alonso, Hazard, and former Gunner captain Fabregas, which was more than enough to secure the 3 points at Stamford Bridge and push a lackluster Arsenal essentially out of the title race while keeping their 9-point cushion over Tottenham at the top of the table. Yes, we can say it was the formation change among other things, but what it all comes back down to in its purest form is Antonio Conte. He brought Chelsea back to the heights by motivating players that Mourinho could not. Hazard and Costa have been lights out this year, and Chelsea are now in cruise control towards another title and 93 points, which is 2 points off the all-time record set in the season. So guys, that is all we have for today. Keep an eye on this space because later this week, we have our Champions League knockout round preview coming up. Get excited and follow, like, and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys later.